I'll call this meeting of the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors to order. Roll call, please, Mr. Veeder.
Paul? A ghostly voice response. Leyland?
Here.
Little?
Here.
Trelka?
Here.
Schwartz?
Here. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Recording in progress.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Entertain a motion on the agenda as received or amended.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All is opposed, the agenda is approved. We will move on to the budget work session. This is discussion, consideration of all aspects of the fiscal year 25 Blackhawk County budget.
All right, and Mr. Noel Anderson from the City of Waterloo, who, as you all know, contracts with us for our building, planning, and zoning services, is here to talk a little bit about the contract we have with them this morning. And he is only on Zoom. He was afraid to see us in person, so he will be speaking with you.
I didn't think I could get through security.
That could be true.
Let's keep it that way. Let's keep it that way.
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I think we've been doing contract services in partnership with the county since I started with the city in 1995, and they were doing it for a number of years before that. So I think it's been a very good partnership for both of us to kind of provide for the zoning services into the county. You know, and we've kind of expanded it over the years to include building and also to include engineering for the E911 services and all that, and then even some code enforcement later on. So, and really, you know, I think that's kind of the important thing is looking back as to why we started the partnership. It was to kind of control growth into the county, especially with floodplain and actions and things of that nature. Safety with the E911 addressing service being consistent throughout the metro area and into the county. And obviously safety purposes for building permits with people, making sure that people are not only doing things correctly, but if they're hiring contractors, the contractors are doing things correctly for their safety. Really, in terms of the numbers, I think the last 3-year average, we've averaged more in revenue than we have in expenses. So it's actually produced a little bit of profit to the county or revenue from the standpoint of providing the services and not costing the taxpayers anything. So we're hopeful that that can continue. We're kind of looking at that 3-year average, but also being a little bit modest and putting the budget closer to what we're at right, or we're at last year, or very close to, or I take it back to the 2022 value. Last year, I think we had some larger projects in the county along 218 South, particularly heading to Washburn. There was a couple of commercial sites, so kind of pulling that back for the initial draft here for the budget and putting it at the $105,000 amount. Right now, for this fiscal year we're in now, we're at $45,000 to date, so we're on track for about 90. Very close to that estimated revenue source. And again, you know, in terms of the expenses, we just charge it based on time and you know, mileage and things like that, charged back to the county for actual city use. So it's amount of staff time used on staff reports. You know, we have the 3 meetings per month with the Blackhawk County Planning and Zoning, the Blackhawk County Board of Adjustment. Then we actually have a technical review committee to meet with some of the other county departments and all that to talk about the items going through for requests for rezoning, for subdivision and all that. So really it's a type contract. And again, hopefully the revenues will hopefully exceed that again this year so that it's a benefit to the county, both in land use, safety, and in revenue. You know, other than that, I don't have anything other specific to discuss with you today unless you have any questions for us. And I have Eric Schrader on here as well, who's kind of the main person for overseeing the staff working on the county reports and overseeing all of the actions of the boards and commissions.
Do you have a sheet in here of the stuff he's talking about? Was it?
Well, the
that
first,
one?
very first sheet you have, the top line in revenue and the first line under expense relate to each other there.
Okay.
So the
when
revenue
he's talking
is,
about-
yeah, the 119,000, and most of, well, the expenses are all in the $118,100. That may not include code enforcement, however, those may be charged somewhere else, but.
Okay.
So for the planning and zoning and the E911 addressing, that is all flowing through here.
Okay. And code enforcement, where does that flow through, or is that?
I believe that might, I am not certain. I'll have to
Okay.
check.
All right.
I think that's in another general activity. We don't have not historically had a lot of expense with that, let me put it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, board?
Nope.
No, I don't think so.
All
Thanks,
right.
Noel.
All right, thank you, Noel.
Thanks, Noel.
Thank you all.
All right, and next, we have the sheriff's office today.
Good morning.
What,
In keeping with these last 4 years, last 3 years actually, being my last years in office, we've been all about succession and transition planning. This year's budget has been largely driven and coordinated by Captain Neff. And so I'm going to have him present and discuss most of the nuances of the budget. He's worked closely with Michelle and with our staff, coordinated us in our usual processes of sitting around the conference table and each division presenting their pieces of the pie and those kinds of things. However, there are some nuances and there are some unique pieces that I will still explain and be ready to speak to with you. So we're going to kind of tag team this, but I'm going to turn it over to Captain Neff and allow him to just kind of walk you through the traditions of what we've got for this year's outlay.
Morning, Board.
morning.
And bear with me here, this is kind of my first foray getting deep into the budget. Obviously, I worked with Tony on it for the last several years, but this is the first time I've actually kind of done the deep dive into it. So I know from Michelle, from the papers you sent me, just kind of going down the list here, we've tried to keep everything from an operating standpoint pretty much flat, as we usually do. There's some things that we've adjusted just to bring up to what the realities of the expenditures have been the last couple of years that the budget hasn't caught up to. So let's see here, as we go down.
Mine is not wanting to change, so if you want to give me 1 second.
Okay.
We're going to try this again. There we go. That'll make more sense to everyone now,
There we go.
hopefully.
Yep. As you go down, that $85,000 in that grant, I think that's a grant that just got moved elsewhere within the budget, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a grant that the sheriff's office had through Pathways for some substance abuse treatment in the jail. And then with the county receiving the opioid funds allocation directly, we have set up a separate fund for it. So while we still have those services, we still have the revenue and the expense, it will no longer appear in the sheriff's general fund operating budget.
Yep. And as we scroll down, you see there's really not much change all the way down through. Slight increase down there once we get down to dues and memberships under operating expenses. One of the bigger changes you'll see, there's $22,000 budgeted for ammunition. That's something that obviously we've bought ammunition every year, but it's never had its own line item. So we just wanted to spell that out. And especially for Michelle's purposes, she kind of wanted a line item for that as well.
So it was included in another line item, it's just that it's.
It was never actually a budgeted item. It's just something that we've kind of taken ad hoc from wherever we needed to.
over each division, but at the end of the year, we just
This is the amount.
plot $15,000 $20,000 of ammunition.
Okay, thanks.
So that's spelling that out now. Obviously, anything getting into fuel, lubricants, medical, lab supplies, any of that stuff we need, whether it be for patrol investigations, any of that stuff, those costs are just going up, and the increases there just reflect that over the years. Licenses, permits, same thing. You can see from the past years we've spent between $37,000 $38,000 on it. It's only had $3,000 budgeted, so we're just bringing that up a little bit more to be in line with what we've actually been spending on it. Professional services, you'll take a big jump, but that, again, is out of the 60/40, and the vast majority of that is your Securitas contract that comes out of the 60% fund on that. So really not anticipating any additional expenses from our end on that. Like I said, most of that is for the courthouse security down in this building.
Just Nate, the question on the med lab supplies and that increase, and it looked like it was just rather, not, it wasn't a static expense. It looks like it's kind of changed over the years for a variety of,
Yeah.
I just was curious, and it's a large increase, but it's still, compared to other years, it certainly wasn't. I just,
So everything from OWI testing, urinalysis testing to,
I think autopsies fall under that, any of those kind of things. So that can vary too, depending obviously on the number of fatalities or suspicious deaths or anything like that we have. Most OWIs we're able to process in-house with the data master where the breath doesn't cost us anything, but if they have to get sent out for a blood draw for urine, any of that kind of stuff, those things increase too. So there is some ebb and flow with that.
okay, thank you.
And then, let's see, I think moving down, utilities, that's again out of the 60/40 there. The actual expenses at the range have been going up on that. It's just never been budgeted for. So again, that's just bringing it more in line with what the actual expenses have been. And that takes care of most of the predominant changes you see through there, unless there's anybody has any more questions through there.
So was that also a change that utilities was probably spread out over some other categories previously?
No,
too?
that's always been.
It's just been,
through
oh,
there,
okay.
Yeah.
One of the things,
use,
A change.
more usage of that facility.
yeah, one of the things that I realized was the 60/40 fund is kind of been hard to budget because we've got two different sources kind of using that money. So I spent a little extra time on that this year. And yeah, the utilities were far under budgeted. I just think it's better to budget where we're going to spend the money, so
Yeah.
that's what I did.
And we've got the geothermal, which keeps a lot of that expense is pretty static, but we do have internet and service out there, and as anybody with MediaCom knows, that that bill certainly does not go down each year. So
Thanks, I'm sorry.
I think that's a good chunk of that increase in there as well. So,
Thank you.
let's see here. Rural basic, overall, not a lot of changes in it. You'll see a lot of numbers kind of being kind of adjusted, whether they be up or down. It's because we've kind of run into some issues with whether some of our patrol deputies are assigned correctly to that. Michelle's done a lot of work, and she's actually been working with Captain Herbst on that, just to get it back in line to make sure that the appropriate staff are being billed appropriately from that fund.
Yep.
And actually, overall, you just see there's only less than a 1% differential in it, but a lot of numbers either moved up or down just to make sure that it's being done accurately. Next up, we've got the commissary fund. That's a fund that the budgeting on it, I don't think had been touched in years on it.
I'm pretty sure it hadn't.
The expenses and revenues have both steadily increased over the years on it. So what we did was we actually increased both by about $300,000. And that's just because that's realistically what it's been doing. It was, I think the revenues have been in the $600,000 plus range for the last few years, and it's been budgeted at $300,000 revenues, and the expenditures have gone up accordingly. So really that, we kept that pretty flat, but the numbers actually increased. Just to be, again, more reflective of what's actually happening there.
We've been having to do budget amendments for that every year. This may allow us not to. We'll see.
Should at least be a lot closer anyway. with
Yeah,
the
it should be a
ballpark.
lot closer, yes.
Yeah, but let's see here. Staffing wise, nothing's changing there. We're not adding or taking away any staffing there, so that's static.
I'm sorry, I highlighted the wrong one. I was trying to highlight the network administrator.
Oh, I
I
get
went to
that.
0, so I apologize, I got the
Oh,
wrong.
yeah. I guess I
My
didn't
eyes were
misspeak
getting
there,
tired
but,
last
with
night.
with the reallocation of our IT person, that position's been eliminated from our budget, but then that's the one that's been sent back over to IT. So
Which is going fantastic, thank you.
yes, it is.
Did we get that on the tape?
Yes. I will sing Al and his crew's praises all day long. So that's not an issue there. Moving on to capital. And no big kind of one-off things are in there. We've gotten a little more specific at Michelle's request, which is trying to forecast long-term planning to help both ourselves and her out, as well as your budget planning for the years to come. A lot of those things that we're already doing, we typically have 5 new squad cars every year just to keep the rotation going. Anytime we do a new squad car, which is roughly 5-ish years, we try and put a new laptop in it. And especially as we know with Al being involved now, he's definitely on top of keeping the new technology up to date and keeping everything safe, keeping everything current. So you see that's in there. And for the next couple of years, that's really all there is. The copiers that we rotate through every year, we run through hundreds of thousands of copies each year. So we've got different printers that each of those get phased through. I've got a transport vehicle, but again, that's something that I always pay for out of commissary. We actually have 4 different transport vehicles that rack up the miles on them as our guys. It's not just a matter of going to hospitals and doctor's appointments in town. If need be, we've run to Los Angeles, we've run to Florida. We have to go all over the place to pick up prisoners. So those vans get the miles racked up on them, but fortunately, that's one thing that the commissary fund's always been able to take care of for us. Full replacement. I've got pretty much the entire building done except for 1 pod now, and I'm sorry, I'm on to 2026 here with that. Again, that's something that as our accounts ebb and flow, when they get down low enough, we go through and we get that done. It still had the original tile on it up until the last couple of years. Been able to tear the tile out, polish the cement, so there's a lot less maintenance on it. It just looks nicer, cleaner, newer. And again, with that tile, every so often you have to go through, strip the wax, re-wax it, and it's just a big headache. So the polished concrete eliminates that for us. Again, bulletproof vest, that stuff that's all on a replacement cycle. The radars are something new. There's something that in the past we've been able to use some grant fundage for. That money's not always there for us. Occasionally we get a chance to apply for one and we do so, but we're putting those into the mix now. A big one you'll see on the 2027 scale there is handgun replacement. Glock generally recommends about every 5 to 6 years on the replacement. It's been 2018 since we bought ours. We do have our armorers go through them every year, and they just recently did that. And they said everything's looking real good. They're fine with us getting a couple more years out of it. So no hazards on it yet. So something that's typically a 5 to 6 year purchase, we're going to be able to stretch out into closer to 8 or 9 on it. But that is definitely coming down the road. And then kind of on that same vein for the next one, you'll see the rifles for SWAT and patrol. Again, those are armored every year. They're well taken care of, but for safety's sake, they do need to be rotated through. And then in 2029, that's where I think we had, the body cameras and that stuff, which seems kind of funny to be talking about because we're obviously going through an RFP process for that right now. But that was one thing where we did kind of mess up the last time we got them and didn't forecast in the future for. So now we're looking at that. We've got the servers, the exact Stanley stuff, which again is something that those things have been ordered for now to upgrade. But again, we're talking 5, 6 years down the road, it's going to need to be done again. So we're forecasting for that. If we did it all at once, it's about $500,000, at least in today's dollars. Hopefully it's not too much worse than that in 5 years, but your guess is as good as ours on that. But that could be broken into 2 different years on that too. So if we had to do $250,000 one year, $250,000 the next, $250,000 the next year, we could do that. Again, that's something that commissary funds will definitely be able to offset with. I would love to tell you I would be able to pay for the whole thing out of that in 5 years. That's probably not accurate, but we'll certainly, like we did this year, work with you on that and take as big a bite of that as we can. So that's kind of the capital. Again, no real big projects, no remodels, no buildings like that coming out of the capital, just some of those things that we have to kind of go through every few years. So. Can I answer any questions or anything on that?
Question on like the vests.
Yeah.
Is right now it shows that we're going to replace them every year. Is there any, I don't want to say bulk discount, but is there Is there a bulk discount if we're getting all at once versus the yearly cycle? Okay.
No, and we do about 20 at a time. I think
Okay.
it's give or take each year, so we're not doing them all at once. And that way, obviously, we don't have to do all 60 at once into one big expense. So it kind of it keeps them on a cycle, kind of like with the laptops, everything else. We try and every year buy 5, so we're not, everything doesn't run out at once and we have to do all at once again. And with vests, too, the thing on that, Tavis, is they actually are suited to the person.
Got it.
So if, when I go, if you take my spot, I don't want one that's hanging down to your knees. We
Yeah.
gotta have one that stays up a little bit more.
Not that you're short. You're looking for something difficult to ask him.
I was-
We need to be hard on him at least a little, don't you think?
I guess my question is, I appreciate the 5-year capital plan.
Budgets
Do
and
we
another
feel
handout. Can you stay? for
pretty confident in this being kind of a capital plan for 5 years?
Well, I'll move it.
There not being any other major surprises and
We've tried not to, or we tried to go through with, between the other 2 captains and the sheriff and I. The only thing we might see is during this remodel project, they did find some leaking around the windows. So that may be something that we'll have to work with Rory on to see if we need to look at some tuck pointing or something like that around the windows. And the tuck pointing was redone just a few years after that. It was 2009? Okay. Okay, well, there we go. So, but otherwise, I mean, the 4 of us have brainstormed and
okay, I appreciate it.
pretty exhaustive from what we can come up with, but I'm not going to stand here and tell you that there's not going to be anything because we both know that
I was gonna say, so no.
something will come up somewhere, but
If you need help, Al will come up with something for you. Don't
I'm
worry.
sure he will.
Al and Rory seem to be pretty good
Yeah.
at helping us spend money. Do you want to do sieges?
Yes, we can do sieges. I'm gonna look for the page here. It's gonna take me a minute.
So as you know, we continue to have that fund, Criminal Justice Information Systems Fund, and we're in a bit of a transitional stage right now because Brian's no longer there. That's basically how we funded all IT expenses for the sheriff's office. Now we have IT. And so we're transitioning interests in our general IT infrastructure, and we're trying to figure out how to bifurcate that out from what is traditionally workspace IT stuff from criminal justice stuff. And at the sheriff's office, that's weird because most all of our stuff is criminal justice infrastructure stuff. So there are things that no doubt absolutely makes sense that Al's going to take care of because it's under that general infrastructure support type stuff. But there are things that still traditionally fall and have always fallen under criminal justice information systems stuff. Contracts, maintenance, upkeep, that kind of thing. Things that Al doesn't even see the bills on, doesn't even realize that we're still paying maintenance and fees on, and stuff that maybe Al has purview over, like our virtual private networks that connect Dunkerton PD to us, Hudson PD to us, the county conservation to us. That all has to be updated. The new expense associated with that, then 10 to 15% of that contract becomes the maintenance fees associated with that. All of that we're still kind of keeping under CJIS. So you're seeing some increases in the overall CJIS expense for those things that we're still kind of negotiating out what makes sense under just general operational IT expenses versus what is that infrastructure that supports the county, what supports all those small agencies that we're big brother to, that maintain that wide area network connectivity to, which was what CJIS kind of traditionally was infrastructurally supporting, and then what exists still today that we still have maintenance contracts on, and as you know, things that the ISIT team identified that we went out and purchased brand new stuff to react to and respond to, and maintenance contracts on those kinds of things that are just being pushed into that budget as well. So you're seeing a percentage increase, but it's kind of traditional where you would expect, I suppose, any IT budget to be with respect to the cost of doing business in the computer world. So we're reflective of that, and again, as you go through our regular line item budget, we've talked about this every year, we don't have computer line item budgets anywhere else. This is how we pay for those kinds of things. So we're still kind of in this state of flux, state of change, and trying to isolate and fix out what Al will support, what we contribute to Al for those kinds of general IT support types of things, and what things traditionally have existed under CGIS, and how we separate and maintain those kinds of things too. Does that all make sense? So while we're still in that state of change, you're going to continue to see those probably over the next couple, 2 or 3 years, while Al continues to get ramped up and more educated on what our system still looks like, the infrastructure that he is supporting. He's getting his feet further emerged and taking more ownership of those things. And I do foresee a day where we say, guess what, Al, the CGIS budget is yours to manipulate and control, and it's yours to speak to. I will love that day. That will make Nate and I very happy. But at this point, we're still kind of in that transitional period where we know we have to be responsive to those contracts, to those maintenance agreements, to that new software we're getting ready to put in, and you know, all of those hardware pieces that support that wide area network and the changes that are happening there. But not so much that we don't recognize that that we are changing to a new platform, a new normal for us. So it's not significant in dollars and cents, but it is a change. Make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you both. Yep.
Okay. And next, we're going to be talking about a new area.
Huh. Today's my 1 month, so why not present a budget, right? So if I want to do the presentation.
She's got it right now.
Okay. so you have
I'll
stuff
just stop
sharing.
sharing.
Okay.
I can stop sharing. You can have it all to yourself.
Thank you. Okay, I see. Yep. But I didn't share. Sorry. I can do it. There we go. And
You either go to slideshow from the beginning or
Yeah.
F5.
got it. Okay. Great. Thank you. So yes, 1 month today, and just get right into it. When I interviewed with you all, we talked about the budget, and I said, what's the budget for this program? Because I was skeptical. I didn't want to come in and not be able to do anything. And you're like, well, hey, you're coming in at a great time. You'll get to influence that. So I appreciate that. I've been watching, of course, other presentations. So I put together a purpose. This isn't a strategic plan by any means, but this is kind of what I see our purpose right now. And in the future, that's one of the things that I would like to do is an actual strategic communications plan. But I have yet to meet with all of the departments yet. You know, we're whittling through them, but there's a lot. And so I would hate to make a full, also it's only been a month, but I'd hate to make a full strategic communications plan and not include everybody, and so we're still doing that. But really, the purpose of at least the budget items that I'm requesting and projecting for the next year is to really increase the engagement and trust in the Black Hawk County services and promoting and sharing timely information. And Michelle and I were talking about that because at first it said for the people who live here, but you know, if you keep Mike in mind and the things that he does, we also want to bring people here, right? And so we definitely want Black Hawk County, people who live in Black Hawk County to follow us, but we're hoping that other people do as well. So this job isn't all social media, but it is one of our big goals. And so just a quick snapshot, and I'm not certain this number is actually correct. Like I said, I haven't met with all of the departments yet, but by my count, we have 19 social media accounts. which includes Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, YouTube, and then LinkedIn. We have the main Blackhawk County Facebook page, which is the one that I'm mostly responsible for. Others, there's other admins for the other pages. And based on our population of Blackhawk County, we only have about less than 2% following. So that's a goal, to get that up there, because if we're going to try to get out information to the people who live here, we want to make sure that it's more than just a handful of people. And we don't currently have a Blackhawk County Instagram page. That is something that I would like to see us do, but I don't really see any point in starting it until we have our new brand and we can kind of launch it as part of that. And so the priorities that I see for this upcoming fiscal year and the finish of the one that we're in is to finalize and begin implementing the new brand for Blackhawk County. We will hopefully have a brand guide for board approval yet this month, I hope. And once that happens, we can move forward with the implementation. We want to, using digital advertising and social media boosting, we want to increase our followers and build engagement with, and increasing our social media engagement with the community. And then also increase our visibility in county activities through being strategic in the activities that we attend, and also the activities that we're doing as a county, being at those as well, but just kind of promoting some of the things that are going on in the county, and then also just being out there to meet the community. I think we have 1,800 followers right now on our Facebook page. I could meet that, and I could meet about 1,800 people in a couple events. So, there is some benefit to kind of the small potatoes meet and greet type of things, and then also the bigger, wider net digital advertising, in my opinion. So I sent out an email, I believe it was earlier this week, about some budget items for the rest of fiscal year 24. And the only reason I have it on the slide is because it is also a line item on your sheet for the fiscal year 24 amended budget. But as you know, those included equipment necessities such as microphones, tripods, and lights, and I'm still kind of finalizing the type of tripod and light based on some feedback I received. And then outreach supplies. It would be pretty ridiculous to go to events and just be me with a blank table. So get some tablecloths, a tent. It would be nice to have a table. Chair. I budgeted for a 2-pack of chairs just in case anybody wants to join me. So just things to highlight our brand and let people know who they're talking to and make us visible. Subscriptions for yet this year. Al's already got me hooked up with the Adobe Creative Cloud. That's got your InDesign, your Premiere, the Adobe Acrobat, all of that. And then right now we're going to do professional account Canva one user. I found out, and I'm so glad, because at first I thought maybe I had done something wrong, but public health can have a free Canva account, but other government agencies can't. And so if we were going to continue in using Canva for the work that we're doing here, so that we don't jeopardize the public health Canva account, we'll start a Canva account here, and then also you'll see in our budget projection in fiscal year 25, I want to increase that so that the people who are doing some of the social media or other type of graphic design type things also have access. It's a really good way where we can communicate back and forth, we can put messages, we can do drafts, and it just really streamlines and is a lot more efficient. And then there is a training that's yet here in March that is part of that fiscal year 24 ask. Did anybody have any questions about the fiscal year 24 items? Okay. I mean, we can come back to it too. So fiscal year 25, I'm starting with the big thing, and I can't remember now what that is. Let's see. I think it's under miscellaneous and outreach supplies.
Most of it is, yep.
Yeah. So this is a one-time expense, and this is why I don't have any, I don't know the budget words, equipment capital budgeted for fiscal year 25, because we're getting some of the things that we need right now, some of the smaller things. Where I purposely am not asking for a video camera because I'm not really sure what I need and how I will use it and how much I need. And so Experience Waterloo, I think I said in my email, we can do an MOU to borrow theirs. I've worked with City Cable before. If I need a studio space, I can schedule that. And we can do that in this fiscal year 25 and decide how much we need a camera, how much we use a phone. And that way, using the funds that we're not using for capital, we can use for brand implementation. And so the thing that was shockingly cheap is the sign, like your sign here in front of you all. I talked to signs
For tomorrow?
by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes. I talked, I just drew a blank on who I talked to. Brody was his name. But he was telling me we have a couple options. It's as easy as peeling off the decal that's on there, or if we wanted to go with a different color, if we didn't want to go with black, even that, really the expense came with the hardware that adheres it to the desk. So not terribly expensive. And then the backdrop, that would be like if we were doing interviews or something like that, and we wanted some type of branded backdrop. If you were doing a press briefing, that sort of thing. Car decals, I'm not 100% on this number. I haven't heard back yet from Conservation, I think, on how many car decals they would need. That's kind of a guesstimate on the list, but at least the ones who want to use the new brand, those we would want them to be branded with our new logo on their vehicles. Badge supplies, I put in like lanyards and retractables, and then we're crossing our fingers for maybe just a one-time order of branded t-shirts for the staff, so like on a casual Friday or something, or if you're out and about at an event, and just so that you can be identified. Those are those asks. Not included in the budget is a branded merchandise store where people can go on and purchase, say, a jacket, a sweater, a zip-up, long sleeve shirt, a button-up shirt with branded logos on it, and that would be at their expense.
You must have read my mind because I was kind of thinking about that would be nice to have. Like,
Yeah, well, it's, we've done it in public health, and it's been fantastic because I think Matt Verbraken owns like a button-up shirt for every day of the week, and so it's just really nice because where he works with Blackhawk County Public Health, and so people have really enjoyed it. They it's really cool, like being at an event and seeing a bunch of shirts, that all say Blackhawk County Public Health. So yeah.
I see like Waterloo City Council people where they've got a polo.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want their polo. I don't. but I'd like a nice button down that I could buy myself.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Exactly. So then the outreach activities we talked about, I've had a couple different conversations with the board, and I really like doing the meet and greet out in the community. Not a ton, but just enough to get out there, especially if we're promoting a new brand, make us more visible. So in this budget includes just a few event fees, printing, because maybe we want to take some information on getting passports. I met with Sandy and her crew, and that's like their biggest traffic item is getting passports. Maybe we want to do some things about voter education. Maybe we want to do some things about things that are going on in conservation, but just to have those items available. I'm envisioning like a business card or a bookmark or a postcard that has a QR code to our logo or to our website, and then a few informational things, like a list of what we do or that sort of thing. And then the branded incentive items, some notepads, some pins, maybe some stickers that everybody loves, just to have something to hand out, because nobody comes to your table if you don't have something to hand out. And then the advertising, that's kind of your big reach. So doing some social media boosts past the people who follow our page, doing some digital advertising using Google AdWords, and driving that traffic to the website, and then a nominal amount for translation. Again, we're not thinking that we're going to come in and translate everything that's happening in the community, but we want to translate information to tell them how they can get things done here at the county. So one of my former coworkers from public health, I see her here all the time helping people get passports. So letting people know, bring somebody with you. This is what you'll need to have on hand. They're very proud of themselves at the recorder's office that there's one-stop shop for passports. And so making sure that it is a one-stop shop, that everybody knows what to bring with them. And so just making our services more accessible, not necessarily having everything translated all at once, but just letting people know and kind of demystifying the things that they can access here.
Maybe a quick question on the printing side and probably more budgetary process. So now when the recorder's office or conservation, they've got their own printing, are we envisioning that would come under this budget, or are they going to maintain that and then this will be a supplement? I'm just trying to figure out.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
So, no, I don't want everybody's printing budget. But what I'm envisioning is these would be materials specifically used for outreach, right? So they might have a printing budget for the things that they have for their, the things, applications people fill out and things like that. But the things I'm thinking of would be like specifically outreach items.
Okay.
Now that might be like, I think there's I think Grant, you have a brochure on your counter about voting registration or something like that. The marketing role could help revise that if that's not something that's like state mandated or something. But then the printing would probably come out of his budget because it's his program. That's my take on that. And that's the way we did it at Public Health, so.
Very good answer.
Okay. And then, again, for the fiscal year 25, just continuing with that professional development, trainings, memberships, some subscriptions, like I said, increasing the Canva users. I'm projecting 10 users for Canva. That would just streamline, if Ryan's making something, if somebody from conservation is making something, we can all communicate kind of, even though they're still very much going to have their control of their social media pages, but just kind of streamline some of the look and have you can set it up for brand colors and everything, so everything is available to them. Helps with efficiency and content creation, brand adherence across platforms. And also, the other subscription that I would like to start in fiscal year 25 is a social media scheduler. Same type of thing. If I pull up the scheduler, I could see all the social media posts that have been done from all these 19 accounts, and then also what is scheduled. And I can pull analytics for all of them. You can use labeling, so you can, posts can be labeled with conservation or can be labeled with auditor or whatever, and then you can look at the analytics and see which ones perform better and how many we have compared to others and that sort of thing. So it just, if you want to increase your followers and your presence on social media, being able to measure it with data is kind of the next step in that. Questions?
I think that I have a personal subscription to Canva Pro because I use it a lot. And I think it's only like $15 a month for one.
For one,
user.
yep.
I think, isn't it like 5 users just like 30 or something like that?
It is for 10 users. Let's see. I have it on here. It was $2,000 for 10 users. So it's like, I think it might be like $200 a person for a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's scalable. I put 10 users. I haven't even had those conversations yet, like who would want to be a user. In my ear, I'm hearing, ow, ow. But who would want to be a user? Who would want that type of access? So it could be 8, it could be 12, but I'm thinking 10 will be fine.
You're getting a deal, so you better keep that.
Yes.
Any other questions?
No, just an awareness, I
so.
guess, of your time and how much time I know you're spending even now on the job and in this first month, and knowing how committed you are to it, just to not overextend your time and energy. Hopefully you can have recruits or some assistance, I guess.
Well, I got 2 chairs, so anybody's willing to come, but, well, I will have 2 chairs. I I appreciate that. This isn't my first rodeo as far as event season and that sort of thing. And so, yes, it can be kind of busy, but work-life balance is definitely a priority for me. So, yeah, I appreciate that. But I really do enjoy events. I enjoy, I was telling you, Michelle, yesterday, we, Blackhawk County Public Health did a parade last year, and nobody wanted to do it except for 2 new employees that wanted the 4th of July weekend off. And so the 3 of us were in the parade, and Rocky and Shaviva aired it live, and I went back to listen to see what they said about us, and they said, well, there's Blackhawk County Public Health. Well, they're everywhere. And that's what I want them to say about Blackhawk County. You know, I want people to recognize us and see us out in the community and be happy with the services they're getting for us, because they're going to pay taxes to us no matter what. So they might as well be happy with the services they receive.
Sure. Well, and I hope and I assume you get quite a bit of response too from different departments that maybe are willing to assist. But I just thought, yeah, not to put yourself too thin.
Doesn't believe me when I say I'd go to events with her.
Looking for others to join. Just as long as they're not.
It can be really hot, really cold.
Yeah.
Or all the
True,
things.
rain.
Yeah.
You bet. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
do think spending some money on social media advertising will be critical for building the page. I mean, that's how I started the page, but I knew that it wasn't appropriate for me to maintain it, so I started and then turned it over to staff. But I remember saying at the time, like, it's not going to grow at all unless we spend a small amount of advertising dollars to get more likes and conversions to people to follow the page. So it's critical.
Yep.
And someone to manage it.
Yes.
To get everything out there.
Yep.
It's tough, so that's great.
Yeah, the brand adherence, implementation, rollout, all that stuff. Definitely want to make sure that's. I like the idea of the shirts. I think it is a good way to engage all staff. They've all been engaged through the surveys and that sort of thing as well. But I think it should be an exciting rollout. And I think that sort of stuff helps.
I'm excited.
Board, any other questions, board? So, well, thank you, Gabby.
Thank you.
Okay, hard to follow that one up. And you have the sheets in front of you with the details, which Gabby's presenting it to you kind of on a activity basis. This kind of puts it in our general ledger account number format. So total's the same, looks a little different. And then we did make some tweaks to that, so I did rerun our general county supervision activities. I assume you're ready to dive into all those
Yep.
today. All right, so I hope these are in order for you. Should be with your marketing section. So this should be the general county supervision, general fund activities. The first format I'm showing you is kind of the traditional by account number format. And yeah, I find it a little easier, I guess, to look at the by activity one. So I'm going to jump to that, which you should have that in your packet as well. So this is more by the category of what we're doing. So general supervision, one of the things we do is provide space in the courthouse for a number of state departments, such as First Judicial District, Clerk of Court, and Juvenile Court Services. And we used to provide a daycare center with space at Pinecrest. That will be falling off here, but it's on prior activity, so I left it on, even though we're not doing that any longer. The things I would like to point out on here, you can see that I did budget for the stormwater the watershed management agencies that have requested funding. That's under environmental restoration, $5,677.
What
That
number
is
is that?
Yeah.
0120-6030 under expenses.
Okay.
second line of expenses on the by activity worksheet. Which I'm hoping that was in a packet with your marketing. Did you not get that one? Okay, maybe I apologize. We must have missed getting it in
For
there.
today, it wasn't. I think it must have been in the yesterday.
Might be
or
in the one from
Tuesdays.
Tuesday.
Tuesdays, I think.
Possibly.
That's where it looks like for me.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that. We'll get you copies again. Other significant things. Added the marketing, although this seems to be the old, no, that's right, 35,000. And other policy and admin is primarily audit fees, which took a jump. A lot of the, due to ARPA and other grant funding. And general services. Remember what that's. I'll have to look. I had a list in my head yesterday, and now I don't remember what that's for. Okay, well, so let me ask this. What page do you have that you'd like to talk about next? Board agencies, general fund? Because I can probably jump
Now,
around.
are these some of the ones yet from Tuesday, or are they new ones that we have?
I think. Apparently this.
Swimming in numbers.
I know, I was gonna say, I think one we got in today's was there's a board agencies by activity and a board agencies rural basics fund. That was in everybody's packet today, right?
Yep.
Yes, we could go back to that, yep.
Well,
That's the one that, for example, planning and zoning was
Yeah.
on that one, right? But there's
Yes.
other activities on there, so we can,
If there's anything you want, anything else you wanted to talk about on those?
yep. So, these are well, I guess the agencies, the word's kind of self-explanatory, but our dues to the Northeast Iowa Response Group are in here. And then that arrangement, they bill the county, and then we have to turn around and bill all the cities. So there's expense and revenue, and the net of that is our rural county cost for that. Our Emergency Management Association fees are in this category. The rural libraries are there, and for now, that's in at the request they made, so that those are all choices you'll have to make here in the next few weeks.
So the disaster emergency management, what's included in that, or what is that?
That's the county's share.
Just that's our
of the
portion of
cost.
that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And that,
More than I thought.
that may be a little high. The proposed that I saw for 25 is a little lower, but they have not had their hearing yet, so right now I've just left it
Okay.
at the higher amount. Soil and water conservation is here at the higher amount that they requested. Again, those are all things that will be on your menu to choose what you want to do. And then we had the Small Firefighters Association funding. And that's all of those.
And the firefighters, when they do a letter to us correctly, is that just one we renew? I was trying to think of how,
That's a really good question.
That question came up last year.
because I think we were
So-
wondering what we do, what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we did get a bill from one small group. There was another one that we have contributed funds for in the past. They did not request any funding in '24. They're in the budget if they request it, but I think they need to request funding. I don't think we should send checks without
Maybe that
that.
was it.
So we'll see if they.
Maybe that was the question. They hadn't billed us, so it was like, yeah.
No,
we wouldn't
they
just renew
hadn't,
it.
and I
I
don't.
didn't know what it was for.
So I'm not sure if there's a need for that one anymore, but that was only the $250, so it's not a lot. And so the other one is the just by account of the ones I gave you this morning. So I'm kind of trying to present it a little differently so you can see it both by account and then more by who we're paying, I guess, or what it's for. So that's the rural fund. Now, I think that Grant gave you copies. Now I have to go find it.
Test.
Test for all of
It's a
us.
test for
Yes, it is, and I might flunk.
Let's try to keep up.
Although, this doesn't look. Yeah, so do you have that sheet in front of you now? I just want to make sure we're kind of on the same page.
This one's unique, so yes, we all have this.
Okay.
It's all black and white.
All right. So the by account, I did bump up the reimbursements. Again, these are another portion of reimbursements from, actually, that's from Department of Human Services for some of their maintenance expenses at Pinecrest. That's the revenue.
Sorry. What got copied was the general county supervision.
Yeah.
Not
Okay,
the-
that's why, no, I think they.
That's not, this is what I.
Yes, and I'm switching to that because I thought I was picking up the one that you gave him, but apparently I didn't. So, all right, we'll go to, how about this one with sieges on it? Does that look more like,
Yeah, we do have that.
okay. So we'll go-
Is that one from?
From
Right.
Tuesday.
That was from
I think
Tuesday?
that's from Tuesday, though.
Okay.
Not from today.
Okay, well, you tell me what your sheet looks like and I'll find it. How's that? Because this
So,
is
is
general-
everything in Tuesday part of the review for
Oh,
today?
you know why? I'm stuck on, never mind, I'm stuck on agencies. Let's try this again. Tried to get, I should have just reprinted everything from Tuesday because I got myself confused.
I'm gonna grab my.
And I'm gonna go to the by activity version.
Oh, yeah. If you don't have Tuesday, yeah, grab Tuesdays.
This is why I started talking about when we realized you don't have it. So. Right? You did not.
Which one? The by
Is this the one you
activity
didn't have the
general
head
fund.
marketing on it? See, I think I had it. Okay, I don't know. Thought I had it with the marketing, but maybe something happened to it.
Activity general fund. Okay, wait a minute. 49.
All right. I have that one. I don't know when I got it. I don't know if it's Tuesday or today.
I should have just reprinted them all.
Yeah.
Just trying to save a tree branch.
General fund. That's the one.
Should,
Page 3 of the larger packet of.
That's Tuesday,
That's
page 3. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
that's-
Okay. Okay.
should say board agencies, or, I'm sorry, general supervision at the top. I'm looking at the wrong one. By activity.
Okay.
We have too many activities for the board. That's the problem.
We should have talked about these Tuesday and then we could have moved on. That's it.
These are the ones I kind of already talked through.
Okay.
We've got environmental restoration and marketing is on here now. And then you can see, we pay, obviously, utilities for, and most primarily phone, for First Judicial District, juvenile detention, clerk of court, and juvenile court services. So those are the expenses you see in the lower half of the expenses, and they match the revenues at the top because it's just circular. We pay them and they reimburse us. I don't know if anyone have any questions on that page?
I don't think so.
All right. And I have the by account, but no, that's not even, I'm going the wrong direction here. Let's go this way. I don't know if it doesn't really look too different there, so. All right, then, were you brave enough to try to find the agencies?
Were they-
General fund by agencies. And again, I think I'm gonna switch to the by activity. This is one that we did look at one line on this with CJIS earlier. Just probably another thing that kind of got us out of order, but Tony had something to do, so.
Yeah.
These are agencies that we contract with. Humane Society's in here. I've made that match the new contract with a little, yeah, pretty much that. Our annual intercog dues, and then the huge increase is the community funding. For now, I just put in the amount of the applications that we received for 25. That's the 759,000. And again, just a process we'll have to work through. Projecting, hopefully, no increase in Department of Correctional Services. It's really almost impossible to estimate what those costs are going to be. It's just who we have.
Just a heads up, just because I serve on that tourism board, I know that they have increased their dues. You might have received a letter or two, probably from Jennifer Picker.
I have,
Yep.
yes, and I forwarded that. I should have upped this. I had already done this, so that's why I didn't go back and increase it. But
Okay.
yeah, again, that'll be something we can adjust.
So
Yep.
it's the same group. or
Same
It's
group,
the same
yep.
group, just doing the same, but.
And then Met Transit did send a funding request. Again, I think
Yeah.
hope I provided that
Yeah,
copy
we
to you.
did. I
Okay.
remember reading that, and it was
I've had so many
$135 increase.
Okay.
Is why I remembered it. It was
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't much, but
Okay.
all right. So that is all of those.
And I think, well, we have it up there, you know, my thinking on kind of the community agencies, is that I do want to see that line item increase, but I think it makes more sense to get through all the rest of the budget, and then that's just one of the pieces that we move around as we see where the numbers fly.
Yep, and this is should be our last, I guess, presentation of things that you haven't seen before primarily. Except, well, you've kind of seen the individual departments' capital requests. I think we need to have a session maybe where we kind of pull those together and you can see what that total is.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will be coming up next on the menu, and then we can start talking about all these pieces and compensation, all those things, so.
Yeah, we've got that, yeah. And then we have a meeting, I know Amanda asked for too, with Mr. Galloway. It's coming up.
Yep.
So some of those.
Okay, so that might mean we're ready to go to the general supplemental fund.
Just one question about sieges, so you have a good grasp on it now, because even with all my involvement in it previously, it was always so elusive.
I would prefer a list of the capital items that they requested. $63,000 increase this year, and it's all for capital items, and I think it would maybe help us to have the individual items, but that's up to you. We can try to get that. Otherwise, the software and things we're purchasing is the budget was like flat within, I don't know, less than $100 difference, I think. So I do kind of understand what CJIS does. The county's required to provide the facility, I guess. So I think that's why that capital's falling to us, but it's a substantial increase, so I think it's good to know what that's for.
And who pays for autopsies again? That just came in my mind too. I thought the ME did.
Well, I was surprised to hear Nate say that. There must be
I should
certain
have brought that up earlier,
times-
but as I'm processing all this,
Yeah, generally the medical examiner does. So I was going to reach out to Nate to ask specifically when the sheriff's office would do that. That must be under certain special circumstances that they need to do that.
because I'm taking notes, but I just.
I was gonna say out of state or something maybe, or no, would it be something that was not here, performed here? It
that could
at
be-
a
yes, that would be a-
location, So then.
Right, that
I
could
don't know.
very well
We're
be.
just trying to guess.
We should have asked, I guess, when they were here.
No.
We did, so
I feel like
we'll
more
call
than
and
that.
find out.
We'll call him back.
Yeah,
That's what
I'll- yeah.
those people.
We know where to find him, so we
We
can get
have
that.
more questions.
Yeah, I just take a lot of notes on each department. And
Well, CJIS was kind of hard to get information from in the first place, wasn't it? Is that changed now where their information's more accessible since the county is involved? Kind of like we had the problems with, remember getting the medical examiner, he'd never come, and it was like, well, you do need us to fund you. So it would be nice to hear an update or, what's kind of going on in your department. CJIS, perhaps the same way, I'm not sure, but
Supervisor Little.
especially when they increase them.
Right, Supervisor Little serves on their board, so I was able to get some information. He was able to forward me some information.
Shouldn't they be providing this information, though? I mean, I'm just asking the question, I guess, not that it wouldn't be anybody else that we would do the same for, but it was
Right.
like, okay.
Yeah.
Linda, this is Tom.
Uh-huh.
I've had a question for 18 years with CJIS. One question was, if you look at the list, where the county is putting in way more than the cities, the Waterloos, the Cedar Falls, and the others. I've always been told that's because it's our building, but yet the communication center's in our building and that cost is shared. I've really struggled with this CJIS budget and then have this kind of an increase. I've questioned it every year for 18 years and it just, I don't know, but if you look at what the county's paying and go down to the next one, there's quite a bit of difference. They're not really contributing hardly any. But if it's all being used by CJIS, I think it should be all shared. So that's a budget there that I've always questioned and just never really fully understood it, to be honest with you.
Well, would it make sense to have them come and, I guess, answer some of the questions or not?
Well, we've had them over the years come, but they can justify anything. And if we're not part of that organization over there, it's hard for us to kind of comprehend. I was told at one time it was for like printers and copiers and stuff, but yet I see them in the regular budget. But if it's copiers and printers that's being used by CJIS, it should be a shared cost. I just don't understand why we're paying so much more than the other communities. And another thing that I've always questioned is they have a carryover. And if you look at the list, I don't know if Michelle passed it out, but they carry over quite a bit of money. I'm not sure where it's kept. And then they budget again next year for the same amount. So I don't know.
Yeah, because wasn't some of their funds used for laptops or some purchase of computers or something because they had some additional funding available?
I don't. It's a.
Okay.
I
It just
just
seems
think
like maybe for their
sometimes-
increase, they ought to be here to explain it, or unless you can explain it.
Unfortunately, I cannot. This entity, for some reason, many of the 28E entities that we work with, actually, we do their books, in effect. We keep them in an agency fund. And for some reason, that is not how CJIS works. So I don't really have access to see the bills they've paid or things like I would with many others. So
Well, that makes me uncomfortable.
That's what I mean. I know
So
it just
it's-
seems like any of these others, we could ask that of them and expect it, and
And I think you can. So
yeah. I mean, I know we can. I guess we'll see. But I just thought, it's the board's decision. If
Yeah, I
they'd
think
like
we
to,
I think
but
we need to have them come.
let's have some dialogue.
It was stated, I think, by the sheriff that it's going to be turned over eventually to IT. I'm not so sure it shouldn't be turned over today and give him a year under his department to kind of cipher through all that and see what it's actually paying for, and see if that budget can't go down. So I would suggest that we move it right away to IT.
So is that Another meeting discussion?
Yeah, we'll have to,
Or
at least
we'll
have to
have
do
a
some
present.
homework on how
Yeah,
that
do.
works, because I'm not familiar enough with that.
Maybe we just don't approve that one until we do.
I was involved with it for years and I'm confused.
Well, that's too bad. Yeah, now we've got a whole room full of confused people. That's not good.
This
Not
is so
good.
encouraging.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
I love spreading confusion wherever I go.
No, it's not you spreading it. It was spread there before.
I always thought it was me.
On that cheery note.
Yeah.
maybe we're
Let's
ready
move on to that
talk-
$135 increase for Met Transit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about we try to find your general supplemental page that covers our liability insurance? And it completely changed. This would have been in the Tuesday packet, I believe.
We'll have it.
And unfortunately, you're seeing some, I have recategorized some of the expense. So when you're looking at the budget comparisons to previous years, they don't necessarily make a lot of sense. But I'm trying to get what I'm charging to match the bills better so that I can measure what really is for property insurance, for example, versus liability. So that's some of those changes, but the net difference is an increase of $51,000, 14%. And I believe you all got this. If you didn't, let me know and I will forward it. But we did receive emails both from ICAP and from PDCM saying that the state of Iowa is in a struggle really with property insurance, with all the claims that have been coming with, I don't know, it seems to have started with the derecho, which I don't understand, but the derecho and hailstorms, they're just seeing rates rise. And in fact, some insurance companies are no longer even doing business in the state of Iowa for that reason. So we are budgeting, anticipating a very like 35% increase in that, because that's what the market is seeing right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's a market that's going crazy
Yeah, it
everywhere. We're
is.
starting hearing like, people are kicking Florida off. They don't want to cover anything in Florida anymore, which I don't blame them for that. But it's everything from climate change to everything else is just insurance companies are going to cover their end.
Yep. So I'm anticipating substantial increase there. We did cut unemployment quite a bit. That had been at that $75,000 amount for a few years, and with Country View has been off now long enough, those claims are no longer on our system. So I think we can safely drop, hopefully we can safely drop that to 25,000, unless if we make some really drastic budget decisions, we might have to increase that again, but I'm hopeful that we don't have to do that. So that's why one of the reasons the net is not worse than it is, because we were able to reduce the unemployment. And the same with work comp, where we've improved some of the things in our work comp system, and so that you probably noticed as we go through the departments, the work comp expense line in every department fell by a large percentage, so that's a good thing too. And that's all I really have to say about that one. I'm hoping, I'm just gonna ask, what page is next in your packet? It's probably easier to go that way, and I'll get to it. Possibly.
After that one.
General county supervision by account rural fund, I
I
believe.
thought, that's what I was hoping, that's where I was hoping we were at. This is a really big expensive activity. $500, $550. That is compensation for township trustees, should they claim it for doing the clerk work in a township, and you can see very few even ask for payment for that. So nothing exciting there. And then juvenile court services possibly next.
Yes.
Okay. So this is another one of those budgets that runs through us, but I don't, it's hard to feel like you own the expense because again, it just depends on how many juveniles are in the system for what our expenses are. So it's been a little lower in the last year, so I'm hopeful that if we keep it at the levels they're at here, that we will cover whatever we need. And then I'm hoping you have district court administration next.
Yep.
I didn't. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this over here. For some reason.
Any account where there's less you net increase, I'm not really that concerned. What concerns me with all the budgets is where I see a jump of 30, 40, 50, 60%. And some of that is your accounting style from previous
Changing, yeah, some
chief
of those,
financial
yeah.
officers. But some of it also is what has been presented by department heads.
Yes.
Quite bluntly, I was a department head. And sometimes I'd hide.
Oh.
I had plans for that.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
As a prior
She believes
CFO.
it.
And my CFO always tightened me up.
Yep, and one of the challenging things that I try to do is identify those and maybe talk you into something else.
And in my opinion, the county budget is a lot more complicated than city budgets were. Because with these autonomous boards and elected officials. So we're the gatekeepers.
It's complex, yeah.
Yeah, it is hard.
And I get a little uneasy with some of the requests, particularly this year, that I'm seeing in our budget. Now, at the end of our session, the bottom line for me is, okay, how much are we going to have to adjust our taxes?
Yeah.
And I'm also mindful of the other entities that are taxing.
Right.
Because what I anticipate is, it amazes me is how we get the brunt of the anger from the tax. We're
We do.
we're fiscally responsible. And when the citizens view some of these other taxing entities as not being so fiscally responsible, and I get the brunt of the anger, it annoys me. And I try to educate the citizens, but sometimes that's difficult.
It is.
I mean, just yesterday, you're still on the city council? No, I am not. So, marketing, where'd she go?
He's probably marketing something.
I told her we were gonna be nice today. Yes. I mean, and exactly, once we have the big picture, then we can make adjustments. And I don't know how to address the budgeting style issue, but, I mean, for example, where we had not increased amounts, but we keep approving the bills, we get to the end of the year and that department's over budget. So.
I think you're getting us to a much more accurate.
Yes, I
I'm
agree.
trying to do that.
I
That's, I'm not
appreciate it.
trying to, my goal is not to have a huge net revenue at the end of the year, honestly. I would like it to be about even up if we can get there.
No, I think you're doing a good job of trying to look out for surprises in the coming years too.
Well, that's what you have to balance,
Make people
right?
come forward with them.
Yeah.
I rely on you a lot. I mean, like, I'm swimming in numbers. And
Me too.
after being involved in public budgets for 20 years, I still swim in them. So I put a lot of faith and confidence in you to be the watchdog and provide us with guidance. But we also need to question some of, but we should have
Yeah,
questions.
You do. I agree with that. And we've been, we spent the last month, the way I look at it is kind of, we're out in the trees in the forest, and it's hard when you're out there looking at all those little pieces. Now, the next step or phase we're going to go into is we're going to step back and look at the big picture, and that will help us prioritize what you want to do next.
And what we need to look at again, or if we have
Yeah,
questions. for any
absolutely.
particular
More
things
questions
that are
will-
out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Michelle, where we at on the commercial backfill in FY25?
So we lose another 118,000. As you remember, we're on an 8-year phase out, so I believe we'll get about 500 and some odd thousand. I was just looking at that last night and I can't remember the number now. But yeah, so we still get somewhere around 5,600,000, but in a few more years, that will be down to zero. And the other one that's probably concerning to those of us that work with these, they've now switched the business property tax credit. We're being told we're getting backfill for that. So I worry that at some point, don't know what point, but at some point the state may say, we're gonna make that go away too. But let's hope not for right now. Is that, yeah, right now, that is estimated, I think, at about more than 700,000. So you start adding those together, those are big pieces that are coming out of our budgets. Yeah. So
I've got one more thing to add. The juvenile court services we talked about earlier. Michelle and I were working on that last year. The social worker just puts them in a detention center, and for some reason they've been putting them in Eldora, which Eldora charges us almost double. We have no contract with Eldora. If the individual is unruly, they can charge $200 more a day. The facility out on Dunkerton Road that we have a board representative, they do not use Eldora for the mere fact of the cost. And if they're overflow, they go to 2 other agencies in the state of Iowa, but they stay away from Eldora. I talked to the social worker that sent one individual up there, and to be honest with you, she had no idea. She goes, well, I don't know. Yet she was the one that did it. So we're kind of at their pleasure on what they want to charge us. And again, we have no contract with them.
because they want you to guarantee you'll fill beds. That's why we have not. We try not, as I understand it, our people that send them places try not to use that unless it's an extreme situation. And Dan's probably far more familiar with that than I am. So. But yes, you're right. It's expensive, and a lot of the costs just are not necessarily under our direct control.
Hey, Michelle, is there anything else you wanted to go over today?
Well, there's just the human services budget,
Yes.
but again, that's DHS, and I think I'd have to switch windows again if you want me to put it up, but I will. Again, it's,
We've got it. You want to speak to it? I was gonna say, is
I
there
can
anything
if you want to. This is
we have it.
this is another, I believe we're required to house them, and so this covers those kinds of expenses for them. And some of that is reimbursed back. There's a portion that is not, though. And I think that is all of our departmental activities, put it that way.
All right, so looking forward to next week. We'll start doing some more of the big picture stuff, and we've got a meeting next Thursday with Mike Galloway to go over the labor contracts, and so
Yes.
obviously that's a big part.
Yes, hopefully the estimates.
Biggest part.
Yeah, I'm hoping the estimates we've already have in there are close, but we'll see. Maybe, may not be.
All right, board, is there anything else we wish to discuss today? Not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.